Welcome to Current Issues with Dr. Kirk Megu for Tuesday, the 19th of March, 2019. I'm glad to have you here. We begin with today's memo. Do we really understand diversification? We, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, are hurting so much from high prices, lack of foreign exchange, small salaries, because our economy is fundamentally unsound. The world is not in a recession now, and neither is our largest trading partner, the United States of America. The U.S. is experiencing a boom. But there's something seriously wrong with our economy. What is it? In a word, it is dependence. Dependence on oil and gas. So when oil prices are high, our economy appears to be booming. But when prices are low, we crash. Now this is the main reason why there are calls for diversification. I mean, as a country, we need to make money with more than oil and gas. We need to make money with other things. This is a truism that we all know and we all agree upon. But why haven't we achieved it? I mean, we had sugar, but then we closed it down because it was losing money. In fact, we've even closed down our refinery because it's been losing money. So management is clearly a problem. Yet, we hear people saying all the time, the government should diversify. But even business people are saying that. And that doesn't make any sense at all. This shows that we don't fully understand the complexity of our dependency. Not only are we dependent on oil and gas too much, but we're also dependent on our government far too much. Even the business people, maybe even especially the business people. This has another perverse negative effect on our economy. Too many of our businessmen are contractors. Too many businesses depend on contracts or advertising or other purchases from the government. This can be in construction and finance, media, real estate, event planning, almost any area that you can think of. The government is the dominant player in the economy. They're the largest purchaser of goods and services, and they are larger than the 1.2 million citizens. Because of this, the government then has an unhealthy control over businesses in the society, because the government can withhold contracts, they can withhold payments, or they can change contractors, often at will, with little or no restriction. So businesses are indirectly controlled by the government in that way. So this is why it's absurd for businesses to call on the government to diversify. Businesses must diversify away from the government as their main source of revenue. So really there are two types of diversifications that need to happen in our country. A diversification of government revenue and a diversification of the private sector away from the government. Without understanding this, we won't get out of our mess. Well, tonight our guest is Mr. Richard Young, who many will remember as the head of Scotiabank in Trinidad and Tobago for many years, but now is the chairman of the International Financial Centre in Port of Spain. The International Financial Centre has been part of the government of Trinidad and Tobago's efforts to diversify the economy. To date, it doesn't appear to have had the desired effect. However, we'll get a chance to discuss the IFC with the chairman today, what its activities have been, what its plans are, its challenges, and its future. But first, let's take a break, and we'll be back right after.
There exists a gap between our ancient cultural traditions and the social norms of modern day. Much of these ancient traditions find little or no relevance in the current era of science and technology. This has resulted in us abandoning these cultural traditions for a modern life of convenience. It is crucial that we have dialogue about these traditions to give them a modern reinterpretation and relevance. Join me, Dr. Visham Bimal, on the series Bhulal Parampara, Forgotten Traditions, as we explore the roots of our Trinbagonian identity by discussing these forgotten and dying traditions.
Bhulal Parampara, coming soon.
Welcome back, and I'm joined in studio with Mr. Richard Young from the IFC. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Kurt.
Right,
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. I'm glad you came.
Yes.
So the topic that we're talking about is diversification and the different types of diversification. Sure. And the IFC, the International Financial Center, is touted as one of the important, institutions established by the government to do so. Mm-hmm. But could you explain it a little more, because I don't think people are clear.
Yeah, of course. Well, we were started in 2008, so we've been around for quite some time. And originally, it was, well, first of all, the TTIFC or the T-anti-IFC, because there's also an IFC.
Right. Right.
In Washington, is really fundamentally, as you said, an investment promotion agency,
right,
to attract investment in Trinidad and Tobago.
So do you mean like if someone wants to set up a factory, or if someone wants to set up some sort of industry, you all would be attracting?
No, that would be the confines of the province of the InvestTT.
Right, InvestTT now,
We are promoting fundamentally stuff in the financial services sector.
Right.
Okay? So what had happened way back was the mandate given to the IFC, and we've had about 2 or 3 versions. In the original days, I think under Prime Minister Manning, it was the whole concept of a trading desk and stuff like that.
And he would have mooted that idea sometime in like 2003 or something, correct?
Later, because when we're the biggest supplier of methanol,
right,
there was talk about a methanol exchange here and things like that. And then that moved towards really a kind of a, if you want to call it, a financial center along the lines of a Dubai or an island, in terms of what I kind of refer to in banking parlance as sort of a booking point center. And that was the then mandate, to become a sort of a Dubai in the Caribbean. And what that fundamentally meant was that people would come here not to raise the capital, but just all the transaction processing and all the legals, the documentation. So
would that mean that the IFC would be like a little city, like maybe like the city of London, have different laws, different tax rates and all that kind of stuff?
You're bang on. So what in fact happened was that the legislation for all that was in fact drafted, sitting there. We hired lots of consultants, both legal and, and some management consultants first to sort of really flesh out the concept. But what that required, because we are in Port of Spain, I think for the players in the financial center to get some comfort, they would want to have a separate sort of domain, which is like a free zone.
So would it be, what would be the difference between like the offshore financial centers and like Antigua?
Big time.
So what would be the difference between like a Bahamian one and the Trinidad?
Big, because we are not an offshore tax center. We are not for where companies will get incorporated, as Barbados calls them, the international business companies, or St. Lucia, or Cayman, or BVI. Or Jersey. No, it's nothing like that.
Because that's where all the blacklisting comes in.
That's correct, talk about that. No, it was really about, like, with Dubai, you go there to record your transactions. But of course, in recording the transactions, you get special status in the context of the capital that is raised, the interest income, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But unfortunately, that did not move ahead, for 2 reasons. One, the concept of a separate authority was not sort of
palatable,
acceptable. It was not embraced. Really by the authority. Okay, the monetary authority wasn't keen on it.
Right. You mean the central bank?
In a sense, yes. So because it was really then tantamounting to a parallel type.
Yes.
Right.
It's like
you raise a local capital here, because we had all identified panel of arbitrators. The legislation was, people, if they do a transaction in this IFC.
So what years was this
that
being
was
done?
That was kind of moving towards sort of 9, 8, 9, 10.
All right. Okay. So after the financial crash, after
Yeah,
Lehman Brothers
right,
and all
yeah,
that crash.
right.
Okay.
And in fact, what happened also is to move it forward. The other practical one is that it required a check for about 75 million US.
Right.
In the first couple of years, because you have to retain these judges on a retainer, 2 fairly heavyweight people to actually run it, which should have been expatriates. And that required an underwriting of 75. And
Right.
that was when there was a change in
Were
administration.
you chairman at
No,
that
no,
time
no,
as
no,
well?
no,
Right.
no. I came in, I took the chair in April of 16.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was kind of working with the previous board
Right.
on another side, on what we could talk about on the BPO side. So the authority, the separate authority not getting the tick,
Right.
the requirement of the 75 million US
Yeah.
underwriting check, and then the whole world had changed. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So I mean, so it's been, so the TTIFC has been sort of moving from one model to another
That's
model,
correct.
and it's
You're
kind
quite
of
right.
not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
taken off, is it? Would you
Well,
say that?
Well, we've taken off in some areas.
Okay, in what?
So what has happened is that the other mandate, which is more nuts and bolt, is really sort of what we call business process outsourcing,
Right.
BPO.
Could you explain that?
Sure, of course. We believe that Trinidad have lots of talented people. And now this would be in the finance and accounting and analytics area.
Yeah, because I understand you've trained people already in
That's
this.
correct.
So,
We
yeah.
train over 150 people. So these are people who have their businesses abroad, large businesses, and they have a centralized accounting function or finance function. Rather than setting it up in an expensive area, we are saying come to Port of Spain because we have the people as a result of GATE. We have 2,000 plus ACCAs,
Right.
qualified accountants, and lots of finance professionals. Our infrastructural cost is relatively inexpensive. I mean, rising a little
It's
bit
kind
now.
of like outsourcing work
That's
for,
correct. Well, that's
for
what I mean, yeah.
financial professionals.
Processing of business transactions.
Right. So it's like how maybe, I don't know if it's Bangladesh or those countries did data processing.
That's
where
correct.
it's
India.
India,
Yeah.
low skill, just enter data from medical. Now this is
transcription.
at
Yeah.
a higher level
Right.
of financial services, which pay
Right.
more than the dirt poor wages.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So
because
okay.
you're employing, office people.
And you've trained 150 local Trinidad people.
We had 3 separate sessions. The first session was done by an Indian firm. This was just before I joined the IFC, and then we've done 2 sets. Using ACCA has an online training program called Global Business Skills.
Right.
And you actually get a certificate on it.
And that's ACCA is accounting.
That's the English, yeah.
basically,
That's it, English, accounting. And then what we felt we needed, though, is that we augmented that with some soft skills training, preparing them for the workplace, understanding now that if you're working for international firms, if it's a holiday here, they want their stuff processed.
That's right.
Right?
A different work culture.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we started that journey, and of course, we felt that taking advantage of the same time zone
Yes.
in the US,
Right.
that was one aspect. We also felt that the language, whilst you're processing in India, and you have the time difference benefit too.
That's interesting because in India they capitalize on being a different time zone. So when
Right.
you send it when you're sleeping,
Yes.
and when you wake up you
It's
get
done.
it.
Right.
Whereas now on
Well-
this type of service is live. Is
but that's it.
What they call it?
Online,
Yeah,
right, I mean,
online.
yeah,
Yeah. Real time.
Real
That's
time.
it. Yeah, yes,
You're
real
quite
time.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but there's some uniques. Like one of the clients we have now has a shop in India. He outsourced to India, a shop of over 50 people. And when he came here early last year, 2 things really hit him. One, when he saw the quality of our people. And of course, he came just before Carnival, and he fell in love with Carnival, right? And that's something we talk about, that you have to have something that resonates with an investor,
That's right.
right? A personal kind of,
Yes, that they
So-
want to.
right,
As
exactly.
people do business
Right.
with other people.
That's correct. So what he felt was that he felt that the people in India were very bright, but didn't have any entrepreneurial kind of approach.
Right.
which he kind of picked up in the Trinidadians.
Okay.
And the language.
Right.
Because I don't know if you ever tried speaking to somebody.
I know, from India, the accent
tough.
can be hard. Yeah, for an
right.
English
So,
speaker.
so those were some of the pros. And then, of course, also, I guess, North America will feel a little more comfortable with us in the context of the environment, the legislation, how we do business, and stuff like that.
So have these people you've trained, have they been able to...
Some have been able to.
Mm-hmm. So what is it? They go themselves and they try to get clients, or does the IFC link
we
them
find
up?
a firm,
Mm-hmm.
two ways.
Yeah.
A firm that just wants to relocate the processing unit in our part of the world because of a pure cost play.
Right.
Right?
So they would maybe pay the IFC for the services, and the IFC would pay the people?
No, sorry. We are just facilitators.
Okay.
So they come and set up shop here.
Right.
Right. One thing that we do as an incentive is that we have some incubation space at the tower, at the waterfront. But that's on a limited time basis. Fairly well serviced incubation space.
So like an office
That's
thing,
correct.
like
Well,
a virtual office
and so on,
kind of thing?
right. For them to understand, they come here for 6 to 9 months, get their feet settled, get their feel a lay of the land, and then off they go. Incubation.
Right. And people have gone through that?
Well, we now have an outfit out of Dallas,
Right.
Frisco actually, just outside Dallas, that does mortgage processing
Right.
for the U.S. market. Right? Now, the beauty about this one also is that it's a kind of a tech company in that they use their own in-house technology.
Right.
So what happens, as you know, in the U.S., when you apply for a mortgage, the lending institution may decide to outsource the whole adjudication process, whether it is doing the credit thing, the KYC, AML, checking the credit rating, that whole thing. And they do that. So we have about 16 people now sitting at the waterfront, working for this American firm, doing this processing, using the firm's own systems.
Right. So it's like the accounting work and this
Well,
kind of
in this
stuff.
case, mortgage processing.
Mortgage processing.
Right.
Okay.
And they, of course, are now going through the thing of applying for free zone status, which we could talk a little bit about. They've been already incorporated. And, of course, they also see an opportunity in the local market
Right.
to offer some of their
Right.
technology.
So it can be a step towards a larger investment in the country.
That's correct.
So it starts off with an outsourcing,
Right.
and perhaps it may actually be setting up shop here.
That's
Right.
that's like when we spoke to an Indian firm, they came and they saw opportunities. They were really more into digitization and stuff like that, and made a pitch for a couple of insurance companies, but they weren't successful. So the thing about that really is that their game plan is to step it up to about 50 people. The financial model is a little still working on it in the sense that if they were incorporated as a free zone, they will then bill,
Right.
and then the country will earn for an exchange.
So is it some kind of special certification that is needed to do this, or what you provide is a course to help people understand how to do it?
The IFC is about trying to find companies
Yeah.
who want to do the arbitrage here,
Right.
and we will facilitate that. We'll help them recruit people, in the sense we put them onto recruitment
And
firms.
this is called BPO.
BPO, Business Process Outsourcing.
Right.
Now, it's a very widely used term because in Jamaica, they also call it BPO.
Right.
And in Jamaica, they have about 20,000 plus people in the BPO sector.
Oh, really?
But that's call centers,
Right.
contact centers.
Right.
Guyana has about 2,000 or 3,000.
Okay.
Right? We have a firm here in Trinidad, ICOR,
Yes. I remember.
that has up in Tamana, in Barataria. But for some reason, it hasn't caught on.
Yeah.
People feel it's at the low end.
Yes.
But the truth is, it isn't. Because we see those same contact centers moving up the food chain. Right?
Well, actually, and TSTT, I know, outsources to India to
Exactly.
do their call
Yeah,
center
right.
thing too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the THA in Tobago has a whole center.
Right.
And we're trying to help them get it going again.
Right.
Takes about 50 seats.
Right.
Right? So the BPO side now is
That's not an insignificant number. If you say 20,000 in Jamaica,
well, that's just on the contact
yeah,
centers,
yeah.
eh?
Because that's a
Yeah.
lot of jobs.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, exactly.
normally, what I was thinking was with the financial sector, a lot of times these things are jobless growth. Like there's a lot of profits made, but yet not many people are getting jobs from
Yeah.
it. And so,
Yeah.
so it really creates an imbalance in the economy.
Okay.
But this is sounding
Well,
slightly different.
Well, it's all about efficiency, but remember you are setting up here, so it's going to be from zero,
Yeah.
employing people.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I said, for a population our size, to have over 2,000 qualified accountants is a lot.
Yes.
And then you have all the finance graduates, the accounting graduates.
Right. So you're looking at it from the perspective that we have an oversupply.
Exactly.
Right.
And then there are many who start like the ACCA and never finish.
That's right.
But you're not going to take a qualified accountant to do processing.
So that's actually a very intelligent way of doing it, because you're looking at what we have an oversupply in and then trying to match it. Because a lot of time people bring something down and then say, okay, well now let's try to
Right.
train people to fit
Right.
in.
Right.
But we
Exactly.
have trained people already.
That's
so,
correct.
yeah.
So the sort of challenge we have is that, so when I'm talking to prospective investors, besides telling them why Trinidad or why Port of Spain, they also say, well, who else is here?
Yes.
So the chicken before the egg.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So thank God what had happened, and I guess that's where I got connected. The bank I worked for before had embarked on what they now call shared services. Right? So shared services is like a BPO, but it's captive.
You mean so it's only within the company?
That's correct.
Right.
So they proceeded to set it up first of all for all the branches, which is themselves, and then they moved further north and began to process for the other branches of the islands.
Right.
Right? And they, at this point in time, probably employ about 700 people.
Right.
So a lot of the processing up the islands were in a sense, was transferred to Trinidad.
Okay.
Right? And of course, they registered themselves under the free zone, and that gave them some incentives and benefits, right? And so that's happening.
So if people are interested in getting involved in this account, so it would be like accountants, anything, and what else?
Finance and accounting, any sort of processing of financial
So if
transactions.
people are interested in doing this, do they have to have qualifications before they come, or
Well,
what?
some of the employers train. If you have this is why we promoted the ACCA Global Skills, just to give them the general thing. But you'll have to learn the particular company's systems and things that they do.
Yeah.
You can't train them for that.
Right.
You know?
So
but
if-
spreadsheets,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
So if
of
people
course.
already are trained in financial services, whether it be accounting or whatever, then they could come to the IFC for this outsourcing to learn.
Well,
Is that it? Yeah,
well,
yeah.
we
Explain.
will maintain a database,
Right.
right? And we recommend like those people we have trained to register with a recruitment firm,
Right.
and so that
A separate recruitment firm? Or
no,
with
not
the-
us. Not
Okay.
we're pure promotion.
Right.
We're not a commercial play.
Okay,
So to
right,
speak,
yeah.
right? And when we begin to talk to these prospective investors, and they say, "Well, how many ACCA Part 1s you have, or Level 1?" We have that database and we can supply it, right? And then we put them on to the recruitment firms. So it's that's what it is really.
Right. right.
It's really about attracting these firms. But the point I was making was that, so you had the bank employing about 700 people in Shogunas in the shared services. You also have another Canadian bank with about 350 people in London Street, because they also process for the branches in the
Okay,
region.
really?
Yep.
Because
Right.
I know when I do call Scotiabank, it's
Yes.
usually Jamaicans.
It was Jamaican. I now understand that you're getting a Latino accent,
Okay.
because they've shifted a little bit to Colombia.
Right.
Right?
That's true with the credit
yeah.
card.
Very, very
services.
difficult to understand.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
keep telling them. So yeah, the credit card. I mean, at one time under my time, we had a contact center of around 60 people, right? But running a contact center is really scientific. It's all about productivity and so on. So you need also, running in parallel, a local sector
Yes.
of shared services or BPO. And one of my favorite things was that I believe that local government, regional corporations are the ideal for a shared services center.
Like, for example, explain it.
We have 14 of them,
Yes.
right, including the Port of Spain City Corporation. And I felt that if we could, I guess, to some extent politically too, we have 7 and 7.
Yeah.
Let's set up 2 shared services centers.
Right. So that So that when you
So
call a
procurement is
regional,
centralized, the accounting.
yeah. It's kind of a bit like when you call like tea and tech trouble if your power's out and you go to a center thing and
Right,
you say,
yeah.
press 1, press 2 for
Well,
central.
this will be more than that. This will be actually people processing, payroll, procurement.
Right.
It's really, in a sense, a centralization of the functions.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought you meant by a job neutral, because what will happen is that you will not need as many accountants.
Right.
But the point
yes.
is that you're much more efficient. We wouldn't be getting financials 4 and
Right.
5 years later.
That's right. Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
And you have service level agreements.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid that I've not been, my mandate is not for local.
Yes, it's
right?
it's for the
Yeah.
international. 'Cause
But the point is, when you talk to international investors, they say, well, how many people do you have employed in the BPO sector?
Right. So now I understand the link you're making, because they want to know the skill set that already exists.
That's correct.
In that
It's just
type
like if
of
you're setting
thing.
up a hotel. They say, well, how many other hotels in the island?
Right.
And how many barmen you've trained and chefs and, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so it's that. So the challenge on that, of course, as one of the commentators makes the point, is that with the advancement of technology, you begin to get the RPA, the robotics,
Yes.
and the artificial intelligence playing, so that whereas you thought there was an advantage, a robot, which is fundamentally a laptop,
Yes.
a bot, as they call it, they tell me is about, running one of those is about a quarter the cost of a person,
Yes.
right? And they don't get sick,
Yeah.
right? Bar the virus.
And they don't get tired.
Right. So that's why with this recent company that came in, they're using technology.
Right.
Right? It's not all manual. Right? And they're going up in the cloud and stuff like that.
Right. So a lot of these jobs, can these jobs be, done by AI?
It can.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
can.
So
Yep.
until AI is comes on stream, we can fill the spot, but it may be out of it may be displaced in the future, I suppose, by artificial intelligence.
Well, Kirk, is another topic.
Yeah.
The digital divide. Where are we as a country? How much of technology have we embraced? And then the people. I listened to Davos. I fall in love with Davos. And I remember an interview with Tony Blair, and he was making a point that he worries. And Davos, one of the themes in Davos too was the digital divide this year. But, if a country doesn't move with the times of technology, it's going to get left behind.
Yeah.
Right? And then if the people in a country do not adopt technology as fast, they themselves will also be left behind.
Yeah.
Now, we adopt a lot of technology in Trinidad, more on the social media side.
That's right.
But there's lots of other stuff we should be adopting.
Exactly.
People
are still scared to use ATM
Well,
machines.
that's it's true. Because
is.
at my time, I would say about 60%, 75% of our customers are using ATMs, but they wouldn't deposit.
That's right. Because
Right? They wouldn't pay a bill.
They want to
They
give
want
it to
a
a
stamp.
person.
They want to see that they get this receipt.
Anyhow, we've reached the end
Oh,
of the
gosh.
discussion, and there's so much we wanted to talk about more. But it was very informative. I mean, I certainly learned a lot about the
Okay.
IFC.
But I should also say that we are now evolving a financial technology play, because the point we make is that Port of Spain cannot see itself as a financial center unless it embraces fintech, financial technology.
Right.
So we could talk about that again at an appropriate time.
I'll invite you again.
Not at all.
All
Pleasure.
right. Thanks very much.
Not at all.
All right. Well, that was it for the interview, and I'll be back after this short message.
We all want to save money without compromising on the best quality insurance coverage. If you are renewing your motor or homeowner insurances soon, then call us at Ekta Consultants. With over 27 years in the insurance industry, we can offer you significant savings on your insurance premiums. As agent for Guardian Group, we assure you the best quality coverage at a very competitive price. Email us at ektagroupmail@gmail.com.
We now reach the SMH segment, Scratching My Head, where we take a look at some of the absurd, crazy things that go on in our country on a daily basis. How do you inadvertently advertise the sale of our strategic assets? Energy Minister Franklin Khan just announced that that's just what happened when a request for proposal was made for the sale of Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited. Now, after much protest, he now says that it will be withdrawn and retracted. But it is incredibly distressing to witness how our national assets are being managed. Over the weekend, Wilfred Espinay, in his typical arrogant, hostile, and abrasive style, told the media that there is no strategic reason for the state to keep Paria and the company shouldn't be owned by the state. Now, Espinay holds no elected office and is not accountable to Parliament, which is the elected representatives of the people. Yet, he felt that he could decide what was a strategic asset for the state unilaterally. Or maybe it was silently approved by others, but he's been left as the fall guy to take the blame. Whatever the case, Minister Franklin Khan now says that, I wish to make it clear that the divestment of Paria Fuel Trading Company is not within the current mandate given by the government of Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited, which is Paria's parent company. For the record, Paria is a strategic state asset that plays a very important role in ensuring the security of supply of the liquid petroleum fuels for the transportation sector of Trinidad and Tobago and for the general public. This company is also invested with the ownership of strategic assets such as tank farms, port infrastructure, and real estate, which were previously owned by the predecessor company, Petrotrin. Accordingly, Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited has been directed to withdraw and retract any advertisement or request for proposals that may have inadvertently been issued for the sale of Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited. But that's not all. Last week, too, it was reported by the international news agency Reuters that Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited secured loans amounting to US $1.4 billion. That's about 9 billion TT dollars, putting the country even deeper into debt under its burden. This has not yet been confirmed or denied by Espinay, who's also the chair of that company. But the finance minister, Colm Imbert, has declined to comment. The Reuters article also suggests that the government has retained Scotiabank to oversee the sale of the refinery, and possible bidders include the mining giant Glencore or the Canadian petroleum marketer Parkland and ExxonMobil, which is set to start commercial production out of Guyana next year. Well, the Ministry of Energy did not respond to requests for comments on the matter. It has to be understood that the way our state assets will be used, leveraged, or disposed of will have profound effects on our country for generations. That it is treated in such a secretive, bumbling, and Vikey-Vi way certainly has me scratching my head. Well, that's it for this week's show. Please join me again next week when we'll be looking at another current issue affecting our country and look for solutions. In the meanwhile, check out my Facebook page where you can see this and all past episodes and join in lively discussion on this and many other current issues with me and also some of the top thinkers and public figures in the country. Take care, and I'll see you next week.